I used to believe secrets had weight, that if I carried one long enough, my shoulders would eventually give out, that the truth would slip, crack the floor, and expose everything beneath it. I didn't know back then that some secrets don't weigh you down. Some of them slowly reshape you, until you can't remember who you were before carrying them. My name is Ethan. At least, that's the name everyone knows. I'm 27, work as a junior project coordinator at a mid-sized architecture firm downtown, and live in a narrow, sunlit apartment on the 4th floor of a building that smells faintly of old wood and laundry detergent. From the outside, my life looks ordinary, safe, even. Predictable mornings, long commutes, coffee going cold on my desk while I stare at blueprints and deadlines. And then there's Isabella. She's been my girlfriend for 3 years. Intelligent, warm, effortlessly confident. The kind of woman who doesn't just walk into a room, she settles into it like she belongs everywhere she goes. She works in digital marketing, often from home, which means she knows every creak of our apartment, every shadow that shifts when the afternoon sun tilts west. She knows me as dependable, calm, grounded. She doesn't know about the other side of me, the side that only comes out when the door is locked, the blinds are drawn, and the silence feels thick enough to hide in. This wasn't something I planned. It wasn't a childhood confession or a lifelong dream I'd been suppressing. There were no stolen dresses as a teenager, no secret makeup experiments in my parents' bathroom. For most of my life, I never questioned who I was supposed to be, until the disguise happened. It started as a necessity. That's the lie I tell myself, anyway. 2 weeks earlier, my firm had landed a high-profile renovation project. Tight deadline, long hours. And then the call came in, a last-minute client presentation at an exclusive private gallery, formal, invite-only, and extremely image-conscious. Our lead designer fell sick the same morning. Panic rippled through the office. Someone had to attend. Someone presentable. Someone convincing. And somehow that someone became me. There was just one problem. The client had insisted, very clearly, on meeting only female representatives. A strange request, wrapped in vague branding language about aesthetic alignment and visual harmony. Management debated pushing back, but the contract was too valuable. That's when my manager looked at me. "You're adaptable," she said carefully. "And honestly, with the right styling, you could pass." Everyone laughed. I didn't, because something in my chest tightened. Not fear exactly, but recognition. Like a door I didn't know existed had just been touched. I said yes. I told myself it was professional. Temporary. A performance. A disguise. The gallery presentation went smoothly, too smoothly. The outfit, the makeup, the way people looked at me without question. The way my reflection in the restroom mirror didn't feel like a stranger, but like a version of myself that had been waiting patiently. When it was over, I went home, showered, scrubbed my face raw, and promised myself I'd never think about it again. But promises are fragile things. Especially when you live with someone like Isabella, someone who notices details. She noticed my distance, my distracted pauses, the way I'd freeze for half a second when she walked into a room unexpectedly. She joked about it at first, brushing it off with a smile. "You're not cheating on me with work, are you?" she teased one night, curled against me on the couch. I laughed too quickly, held her a little too tightly. The apartment became a pressure chamber. Every drawer felt like it might betray me. Every footstep in the hallway outside made my heart jump. I started timing my days around Isabella's schedule, her meetings, her gym sessions, her coffee runs with friends. That's when the disguise returned. Not as a work obligation, but as a choice. I told myself it was curiosity, that I just needed to understand what I'd felt that day at the gallery. Closure. Control. I ordered one item online, then another. Nothing extravagant. Neutral colors. Practical excuses if questioned. I hid them carefully, too carefully. And each time I opened that hidden space, my hands would shake. Not with shame, exactly, but with something sharper. Something dangerously close to excitement. I didn't hate the reflection anymore. That scared me more than being caught ever could. Isabella and I had always been honest, or so I thought. We talked about careers, future plans, even marriage in abstract, half-joking tones. But there was a wall now, invisible and growing thicker by the day. She could sense it. One evening, as she stood in the doorway watching me fumble with my keys, she asked quietly, "Is there something you're not telling me?" I met her eyes and lied. That was the moment the disguise stopped being temporary. Because once you choose silence over truth, you don't just hide who you are from others. You start hiding from yourself. And somewhere between the locked door, the hidden clothes, and the man Isabella thought she knew, something permanent had already begun. The first time I wore the clothes again, it wasn't dramatic. No thunder. No music swelling in my head. Just silence and my own breathing. Isabella had left early that morning, coffee with a client, she'd said, kissing my cheek and reminding me not to forget to eat. The door closed behind her with its usual soft click. And suddenly the apartment felt different. Not empty. Expectant. I stood there for a long moment, keys still in my hand, heart pounding like I'd just stolen something. Every instinct told me to sit down, turn on the TV, drown the thoughts out. Instead, my feet carried me to the bedroom. The wardrobe door slid open. My side was neat, shirts pressed, jackets aligned, everything neutral and safe. Isabella's side was colorful, alive with fabrics that caught the light. And behind my winter coats, the hidden bag. I hesitated before touching it. This wasn't work. This wasn't required. No one was forcing me. That thought should have stopped me. It didn't. My fingers trembled as I unzipped the bag. Inside were things that still felt unreal. Fabric softer than anything I owned, shapes meant to follow curves I didn't have, or didn't think I had. I told myself I'd just look. Just remind myself why this was a bad idea. But looking turned into holding. Holding turned into stepping out of my clothes one careful piece at a time. Each movement felt amplified. Every rustle too loud. Every breath too shallow. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting Isabella to walk in early, catching me mid-mistake. That fear didn't stop me either. When I slipped the outfit on, my hands paused at the seams. The fabric hugged me differently than anything I'd worn before, firm where I expected looseness, soft where I'd grown used to stiffness. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror. Not convincing. Not perfect. But close enough to unsettle me. I laughed nervously. Whispered, "This is ridiculous," as if the mirror might argue back. Then came the makeup. I'd practiced once before, under professional guidance. Now it was just me, a tutorial paused on my phone, and the slow realization that my hands remembered more than I wanted them to. Foundation smoothed things out. Concealer softened edges. A little color brought warmth to my face that hadn't been there before. When I finished, I stepped back, and something inside me clicked. The man I was used to seeing, tired eyes, rigid posture, controlled expressions, had faded. In his place was someone lighter, more fragile, more present. I didn't feel like I was pretending. That was the problem. I tested my voice quietly, adjusted my posture, walked across the room, feeling unfamiliar balance, unfamiliar sway. A thrill ran through me, sharp, electric, terrifying. This wasn't just clothing. This was a version of me that didn't ask permission to exist. The clock on my phone snapped me back. Isabella would be home in less than an hour. Panic surged. I rushed to change back, hands suddenly clumsy. Fabric snagged. A shoe slipped from my grip and skidded across the floor, bumping softly against the wall. I froze. Heart racing. Ears straining. Nothing. I exhaled shakily, laughing under my breath. "Get it together," I muttered. But even as I packed everything away, my pulse refused to slow. My reflection, back in my usual clothes, felt dull. Flat. Like color had been drained from the room. That night, Isabella curled up next to me on the couch, her head on my chest. "You're quiet today," she said. "Just tired," I replied automatically. She hummed, unconvinced. As she shifted, I felt it, the subtle tension in my body, the memory of fabric, of posture, of being seen, even if only by myself. Sleep didn't come easily. Over the next few days, the routine repeated. Every time Isabella left, the urge crept in faster, louder, harder to ignore. What had started as curiosity was becoming ritual. I told myself I was still in control. Then came the afternoon. I almost didn't hear the door. I was mid-transformation, half ready, hair styled, makeup nearly done when my phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Running early. Be home in 15. My stomach dropped. 15 minutes. I stared at my reflection, pulse roaring in my ears. The room suddenly felt too small, the mirror too honest. I moved fast, too fast. Makeup wipes smeared instead of erased. A strap twisted. The zipper stuck for a terrifying second before giving way. My hands shook as I shoved everything back into hiding. When the door opened, I was sitting on the bed, pretending to scroll through my phone, heart trying to escape my chest. Isabella stepped in, smiling, then paused. She looked at me. Really looked. Are you okay? She asked slowly. You look flushed. Yeah, I said, voice tight. Just warm. Her eyes flicked around the room. The mirror. The wardrobe. The air between us felt heavy, charged with something unspoken. For a moment I thought she knew. Instead, she smiled softly and leaned in to kiss my forehead. But as she turned away, I caught it, that brief crease between her brows. Suspicion. That night, as Isabella slept beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The disguise was no longer something I put on. It was something I was constantly aware of, hovering just beneath the surface, waiting for the smallest excuse to emerge. And the scariest thought of all? If Isabella ever found out. I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. The apartment stopped feeling like home. It became a stage. Every object felt placed. Every sound felt amplified. Every moment with Isabella felt like a test I hadn't studied for. I started noticing things I never had before. The way she lingered in doorways, the way her questions came half a second too late, as if she were measuring my reactions instead of listening to my answers. You've been distracted lately, she said one morning while making coffee. Not accusing, just observant. I told you, I replied, forcing a smile. Work. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. And that was the beginning of the spiral. The invitation. The message came on a Thursday afternoon. A formal invite from my manager, another client-related gathering, this time a private networking event tied to the gallery project. High stakes. Appearances mattered. I read the email twice, then a third time. And then the line that made my throat tighten. We'd like you to attend again, as you did last time. The client specifically asked. There it was. Not a request. An expectation. I should have refused. I should have said no, told them it wasn't appropriate, that it wasn't sustainable. Instead, I closed my laptop and felt that familiar electric hum run through me. Because this time, it wouldn't just be a disguise. It would be public. And worse. Isabella knew about the event. Not the details. Just that something was happening Saturday evening. She assumed it was another dull industry thing. You'll be late? She asked casually. Yeah, I said. Probably. She smiled. I might meet Clara for drinks then. Perfect timing. Perfect cover. Too perfect. The transformation that crossed a line. Saturday arrived too fast. The apartment was quiet again, but this time, it felt heavier. Like it knew something was about to change. I didn't rush. That scared me. I moved slowly, deliberately, laying everything out like a ritual. The outfit was more refined this time. More intentional. No longer borrowed shapes, but chosen ones. As I dressed, I noticed something unsettling. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The mirror reflected someone composed. Focused. Almost confident. I adjusted the wig carefully. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from Isabella. Clara canceled. Might come home early instead. My breath caught. How early? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then. Maybe I'll surprise you, winking face. The room tilted. I stared at my reflection, fully transformed now, and felt the walls close in. There wasn't enough time. Not to undo this properly. Not without leaving traces. Panic surged, but beneath it was something darker. A question I didn't want to ask myself. What if she sees? The thought didn't feel like terror. It felt like standing on the edge of something vast. I grabbed my coat, heart hammering, and left before I could change my mind. Public eyes. The event was worse and better than I imagined. People didn't question me. They smiled, complimented, engaged. Someone touched my arm while laughing at a joke I don't even remember telling. Someone else leaned in too close, lowering their voice as if we shared secrets. Every interaction fed something inside me I hadn't known was starving. For the first time, I wasn't hiding. I was performing, and I was good at it. But the thrill came with a cost. My phone buzzed again. Isabella. Missed call. Another. Voicemail. My pulse spiked. I ducked into the restroom, locking myself in a stall, hands trembling as I listened. Her voice was light, but tight around the edges. Hey, I got home. You weren't here. Call me when you get this. Got home. Too early. I stared at my reflection in the cracked mirror. Mascara perfect. Lips steady. Eyes alive. I didn't look like someone in trouble. I looked like someone who belonged. And suddenly, going home felt impossible. The obstacle. I returned to the apartment close to midnight. The lights were on. Every step up the stairs felt like walking toward judgment. When I unlocked the door, Isabella was sitting on the couch, waiting. She looked calm. That was worse. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Her eyes flicked to my coat. My shoes. Something unreadable passed across her face. How is it? She asked. Fine, I said. Long. She nodded slowly, then stood. I cleaned today, she said casually. Your side of the closet was a mess. The room went cold. I found something, she continued. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. She reached behind her and held it up. The wig. The world narrowed to a single point. I waited for anger, confusion, disgust. Instead, she asked softly, How long? I opened my mouth. No lie came out. I looked at the wig in her hands, at the woman I loved, at the life I'd been balancing on silence. And in the reflection of the dark TV screen behind her, I saw it. Two versions of me. One exhausted from hiding, one terrified of being seen. The disguise hadn't slipped. It had split me open. Symbolic moment. My coat slid from my shoulders. The sound was small but final. I stepped closer, my heart pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. I didn't plan for it to go this far, I said. My voice cracked. It was supposed to be temporary. Isabella's grip tightened on the wig. Then why does it feel like you don't want to stop? She asked. I didn't answer, because the truth was written all over my face. The silence stretched. And in that silence, everything, my control, my relationship, my identity, hung by a thread. The room was too quiet. No ticking clock. No traffic outside. Just Isabella standing there with the wig in her hands, and me, caught between explanations that felt too small and truths that felt too big. She didn't raise her voice. That scared me more than if she had. So, she said finally, placing the wig on the table like it was something fragile, help me understand. I swallowed. Words crowded my throat. Justifications, half-truths, excuses polished smooth by repetition. But none of them felt honest enough to survive the look in her eyes. It started as work, I said slowly. I didn't choose it at first. She crossed her arms, leaning back against the counter. Listening. Watching. And then, she asked. I hesitated. That pause was everything. That's when it stopped being just work, I admitted. Her jaw tightened, not in anger, but in hurt, like something delicate had cracked. How long have you been hiding this from me? She asked. I thought about the mornings, the locked doors, the rehearsed lies, the way I'd learned to breathe normally while keeping a secret inches from her face. Long enough, I said. She nodded once, as if confirming something she already suspected. And tonight, she continued. Was that work too? I didn't answer immediately. Because tonight hadn't felt like obligation. It had felt like freedom. I was supposed to come home early, I said instead. I didn't. Her eyes searched my face. Not for guilt, but for recognition. For someone who says this was temporary, she said quietly, you look like you don't regret it. That landed harder than any accusation. I regret lying to you, I said. I regret being a coward. But you don't regret this, she said, gesturing vaguely at the wig, the hidden life, the truth between us. I closed my eyes. That was my answer. She turned away, pressing her palms against the counter, shoulders tense. Do you even know who you are right now? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. The question echoed inside me. Because the truth was, I didn't. I knew who I had been. I knew who I pretended to be. But the person I saw in the mirror lately, the one who stood taller, spoke softer, felt more alive, that person didn't fit neatly into any explanation. I don't think this is just a secret, Isabella said slowly. I think this is something you've been running toward. I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped. Because she was right. The disguise hadn't been something I wore. It had been something I'd been becoming. She turned back to face me, eyes shining, but not with tears yet. With restraint. What happens now? She asked. I looked around the apartment. The couch where we planned trips we hadn't taken yet, the kitchen where we danced barefoot at midnight, the bedroom where secrets had learned to breathe quietly. I don't know, I said honestly. Her laugh was short. Hollow. I need time, she said. I need space to think. The word space hit me like a door closing. She grabbed her jacket, keys already in hand. Where will you go? I asked, panic creeping in. She paused at the door. That's the thing, she said. I don't know either. Then she looked back at me, really looked, and that scares me. The door closed behind her. The sound echoed through the apartment, final and unfinished at the same time. I stood there long after she was gone. The silence felt different now. Not expectant. Exposed. I walked slowly to the table and picked up the wig. It was lighter than I remembered. Almost harmless looking. I carried it to the mirror. And there it was again. The split. One version of me, eyes wide, breath shallow, terrified of loss. Another, calm, steady, unmistakably real. I reached up and hesitated. Outside, my phone buzzed. A message. Not from Isabella. From my manager. Client loved you. They want you full-time on the project. As her. Can you commit? I stared at the screen. At the reflection. At the choice forming in the space between them. My relationship. My identity. My control. All balanced on a decision I could no longer pretend was temporary. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because once I did, there would be no disguises left. To the audience, call to action. So tell me, what would you do? Should I tell Isabella everything and risk losing her forever? Or accept the role that finally feels honest, even if it costs me the life I built? Was this ever just a disguise? Or was it always meant to become permanent?